Hello, everybody. This is Chris Jerome with the Radical Independent Facebook page. I'm here with Gwen Mandell, who's been involved in the election reform movement for a long time and can talk a little bit about her experiences and some of the things that are going on right now. So, Gwen, if you don't mind, maybe start with me a little bit of your background and kind of how you got started in this area.
Sure, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Mhm.
I'm currently director of leadership development at Open Primaries, but I've been political actually since I was 18. I got involved in an organization called the New York City Unemployed and Welfare Council, which was involved in organizing in the poor communities and in the welfare centers for collective bargaining rights
Hmm.
for welfare recipients. And part of what we learned from that is that power require if you're going to go for power for people that requires being in the electoral arena. So we entered independent politics through an organization called the New Alliance Party, which was largely New York City based
Hmm.
at the beginning. And I would say a big entry into the national stage was in 1988 when Dr. Lenora Fulani, who was became the first woman and the first African American to get on the presidential ballot in all 50 states, which obviously was a historical accomplishment.
Yeah.
And so when Ross Perot ran, his staff came to the Fulani team to learn how it was done. And that began a coalition, which I think produced maybe the first non-ideological cross-spectrum movement. It was about taking back our country. The Perot campaign
Right.
was rather than issues. Independentvoting.org, which was the organization I was at before Open Primaries, was born in 1994. I was director of national outreach there. We were organizing independents outside of the party structure. Actually, part of what we learned was that independents didn't necessarily want to be part of a party. And at independentvoting.org, I created, along with Jackie Saylor, who is the president of independentvoting.org, a national spokesperson training program, which has been very successful and is now at the organization Open Primaries. And that's largely what I do at Open Primaries. It's a key program that I run.
So it seems like things kind of got the ball rolling a little bit, early 90s ish time period. Do you think we've made excellent progress or medium progress, or what's your take on the past couple decades? It's for someone who's
I
been in the movement for a while.
Yeah, I think we are making a lot of progress. Well, for one thing, independents are half the country right
Right.
now. Half the country identifies as independent. Registration numbers actually in the states where there is partisan registration, where you can measure that, is rising very, very quickly. In fact, in many states, independents are the largest constituency of
Yep.
people. I think, I mean, it's interesting because both parties, act like that's insignificant. So as the independents are, becoming a gigantic factor in this country,
Right.
the parties basically are more and more developing a bigger stranglehold on the political process.
Right. Trying to preserve their power. It seems like we've got the numbers. We've grown a lot. Now it's just sort of translating that into real. It just seems like we lack representation. That's like the next step, right?
Well, yes, yes. I mean, and that's, I think, I think that's changing. I think there are all kinds of examples around the country, where there are campaigns where independents are really making a difference. Actually, one thing I did want to speak about the spokesperson training program,
Yeah, definitely.
because I think, I mean, it's a place where we're seeing, the kind of impact that independents do have. I mean, we created the training because we feel that it's really important that independents be more visible,
Right.
and able to speak for ourselves about why it is that we're independent.
Yeah,
And
you got to have a lot of people out there able to articulate that kind of, it's like we're there, but now we got to be trained to some degree to express
to
the
lead, to
message, right?
lead, to lead. And I
Yeah.
would say, yeah, and actually, Chris, you're somebody who did this spokesperson training, so I think in some ways you could probably speak to, the experience. But I think, it's quite a unique training because part of what you see is that independents are very different. have all different kinds of reasons for being independent,
Yeah.
come from all different walks of life.
Mhm.
Some people have a lot of speaking experience. Some people actually in the program never spoke publicly before.
Right.
And, I mean, they're new to politics, but this one woman, I mean, who we just did a training actually in May, this one woman, for example, who came to the training actually wasn't going to do the training because she said that she didn't think that she had anything to give. And
Right.
I mean, one of the things she said in the training was, independents are not unsure, we're unheard. I mean, and in the context of her talk, I mean, it was so beautiful, I mean, and people, and part of what happens is that people, I mean, we have, three professional trainers who are also independents, and they help create a environment where people can try some new concepts and talk to an audience of their choice, but also hear how it sounds to others, which actually is really important,
Hmm.
um, and people pick up on and build on what each other have to say. So a lot of people were like, well, I was going to say this, but now that I heard,
Right.
this, what other people said, I'm gonna, and they, so I think part of what you see is what happens when you hear what independents have to say,
Right.
it's like it's very movement. And also, we found this, there have been several hearings this past year where in New York, for instance, the had Charter Revisions Commission hearings, and many independents participated in testifying. And part of what we saw was that when independents showed up and testified, they basically made open primaries the number one issue in the hearings. In Maryland, last year, open primaries launched a first of its kind lawsuit against Maryland's closed primary, and we've been working with Delegate Lily Chee to introduce legislation. And we just had hearings there where 24 independent voters waited, hours,
Right.
before they could speak at the hearing on the open primary bill. I mean, basically, actually, one thing that happened off of that is Governor Wes Moore, went on a national show, the Bill Mayer show, a national show, and spoke in support of open primaries. So now he's in the predicament, since he's one of the defendants in the
Right.
suit,
Right. Yeah. Pressure.
of having to, like to deal with the fact that, oh, he just spoke like passionately in support of open primaries, but yet, his party is preventing it from happening.
Yeah, it
Uh,
seems like one of the inherent obstacles, I guess, with independence is I mean, I don't have data, but I'm kind of guessing here. A lot tend to be not overly political, not real partisan, not overly connected. But the nice thing about the spokesperson training is they could see, like you said, a variety of people just like
yeah.
them. And a lot of them are like, well, I'm not overly political in like a day to
Well,
day,
I think
partisan sense.
it depends on what you mean by political. I mean, I've found a wide variety of that,
Yeah.
but I've been speaking to independents for many years, and many of them are very
Yeah,
pol-
yeah. Oh yeah. Like
political in
me.
the sense, yeah, yes, like you, like political in the sense that they want to see change in this country. They feel passionate about that. They want to be included in the process. They
Right.
believe in fairness and inclusion. They want to see innovation and new ways of dealing with the problems of our country.
Right.
They don't buy into this, you have to be part of Team Red, Team Blue,
Yeah. I think that's
the
more
the
of what I
division.
was kind of getting at. It's like
Yeah,
they care and they are involved and they could be political in
yeah,
some
they
way,
care
but they
deeply,
don't see a
actually.
way for them to really engage unless you're part of
Yeah,
the
well, that's a
duopoly.
different story, yes,
Yeah.
and in some ways, the process that's been created in this country has prevented independents from participating. I mean,
Right.
primaries are, particularly in closed primary states, basically they're determined, before they even get started. So,
So, quick question because I mean, I get emails and it's called Let Us Vote. Is that still part of, is that a separate entity from Fair Vote or Independent Voter? Or?
well, Open Primaries is the national organization. And Let Us Vote is a project of Open Primaries. So
Okay.
Open Primaries
Yeah.
is the broad organization. Let Us Vote is particularly focused on independent voters and bringing independent voters
Hmm.
into the process.
Hmm. Cool. So, what's the way forward? How are we going to solve the country's problems in the next 6 months. No, no, but what
That's
you
the
know,
big one.
what do you see as like key focus issues and improvements to our processes short term?
Well, I think as I said, I think independents have to lead. I think there's many campaigns going on, but what we found is that when independents show up or when independents speak, that changes the conversation in this country. So I think that
Yeah,
to keep happening in the course of, everything else that's happening, because we need to change the laws, obviously, but we also need to change the political culture.
yeah, yeah. It's changing how we think about and engage in politics. That
Yeah,
needs to change. We need the election reform for sure.
yeah,
And on the radical pendant, I'm pretty non-judgmental. I'm like more reforms the better. Everyone has their pet projects that they swear is
right.
gonna, save everything. But I'm more like just do it all. I support it all.
Yeah,
Ranked
yeah.
choice, everything.
With I'm
Um,
with you. I think there's a lot of time spent on, fighting between what's the best reform or what's the
yeah,
right reform. And I mean, I think more important is that bringing people into the process and
yeah.
bringing people,
And you just build on you build those coalitions and
yeah,
yeah,
and there's
that's
lots we can do together. And,
so just kind of as our final thing, do you mind just going over a little bit more detail about the spokesperson training? Like where would people go? How do you even get started on that?
oh, thank you for asking that. Well, we do it 3 times a year. So the next one is October 26th, Monday, October 26th. It's evening, it's on Zoom. What people can do is, if you're interested, email me, GMandell at openprimaries.org. That's two L's. Or, perhaps we have an application that people have to fill out. Perhaps, when you post this, you can put
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, and we'll take it from there.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds great. Well, Gwen, thanks for meeting. It's been a while. I did the
Yeah.
spokesperson training, I don't know, a long time ago, and we've had some contact and mostly by email. But yeah, it was great to see you, and I'm glad you were here to kind of explain how that works. And thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.